You're tuned to Planet Vero Radio. I am Cindy Schwartz. This is the Patient Partners Show. I've got my co-host Jeannie Roller with me on Skype. We are broadcast on 101.7 FM Real Radio, WCZR. We're also podcast on Spreaker and then distributed on all the platforms. Jeannie, we're going to continue this discussion from another previous podcast about intentional harm and patient harm, and actually what we've found, what we did, what our outcomes were, the different avenues that were presented to us to try to alleviate what actually happened to us. And I'm going to chime in with a couple of other people that we did interview on this podcast previously that were in different states from what we are and what happened with them. And we've all found that it's a brick wall, dead-end street. It's not going to happen. And, you know, no one got anywhere, really. I don't want to be spoiler alert, but with any channel that we found to discuss this with, or who even seemingly believed us that it did happen. I know in my particular case, mine was in Florida. It was at an Orlando, Florida hospital. I wound up going to the admin first of that. First, I went to the doctor, the office themselves, and literally got nowhere. And then I went to the hospital. I started like going up the steps, if you will. At the same time, I was still very under the influence of a lot of the side effects of the drugs, the powerful drugs that they had given me and what have you. So it was tough to try to fight it. And I had some people helping me, but a lot of it I did myself because I was the, witness to all of this. I had different nursing staff tell me that they knew that stuff went on at that facility and they couldn't get anything done about it. And then I went to the admin, I went to the risk management, I went to the advocacies, and I hit a brick wall to each one of them. Everyone told me that this never happens ever, ever, ever at any hospital that they ever work in. And I cited the people that, had told me that they knew that it happened and people that were trying to get things changed. And then I took it out of that and I went to senators. I went to my local congressman. I went to those kind of people. I went to the Department of Health. I went to different people in administrations, in the federal and government administrations. And everyone washed their hands. Everyone said this doesn't happen to people. These patients are not ever treated like this in any hospital in the state of Florida. And, good luck and goodbye. So I know you basically had the same scenario. I know a gentleman that we had on here from the state of Minnesota was the same way at a hospital that he went to. I want to say it was in St. Paul, Minnesota, the same thing. I mean, he was couldn't believe that he couldn't get anyone to even listen or even, I don't want to even say admit, that's not the right word, but even acknowledge that any of this has ever happened to a patient. We've had people that happened to in the state of Iowa at well-known hospitals. We've had people in the state of Alabama. I mean, actually in all 50 states, but these are just the stories that have come to the forefront of my mind. Prestigious hospitals in the state of Alabama, that the person was shocked when she woke up and realized that what was going on, in her procedure. It was it's mind-numbing. So, Jeannie, go ahead and, I'm taking up the time, but go ahead and pipe in. I mean, what do you think?
Well, it's horrendous. And I think, Cindy, you said on the previous podcast that if you are harmed by a mistake, I think for my husband at least, he would have been more accepting. He would have understood. But to be harmed intentionally, mm-hmm. he does not understand why it happened. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't. And furthermore, when he was harmed, we went through all the channels and we started out thinking, oh, they're going to do something. Mm-hmm. They're going to do something about mm-hmm. it. And then more time went on and it just became uglier and uglier. All the channels we were going through, we even had a government agency saying, yes, he did not consent, but you are being unreasonable in not allowing a doctor to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Things like that. We were threatened. I think you were threatened
Yeah, I
by
was.
different
Uh-huh.
groups.
The gentleman in Minnesota
It's
was
just,
definitely threatened, yeah. He's on one of the
right.
podcasts. Yeah, he was definitely threatened.
And you just realize as time goes on that you can be a medical harm victim, and there is literally no one out there that cares, no one that's willing to help you, and no one seems to care. That's what we found.
Right. And I also went to
was
police
horrendous.
agencies. I went to police agencies, too, to try to report it. I had somebody suggest that to me, and I'm like, I'm exhausted. Exhausted, exasperated at the end of the day, totally traumatized. And the thing that I want to bring out there is we went into these procedures totally trusting that the right thing was going to be done for us, that we were patients, facing serious, serious illnesses, and just were annihilated by what was happening to us, and we had no recourse. I literally tried to get up and leave from the OR table and said, I'm not staying for this. I cannot believe what I've seen happening to me to this point. I'm leaving. And they gave me more drugs to quiet me. So I was incapacitated.
Well, right. And in my husband's case, he laid out what he would accept, what he wouldn't accept. They never said a word. He thought everything was fine. They didn't say, oh, well, we can't do that, or this is the way it's. They never said a word. So we had no idea of what was to come.
No.
So the trust that was broken for him and for me, it can never be repaired. I don't care how many good doctors or nurses that I come across. I will always, and he will always, in the back of his mind, wonder, are they what they say they are, what they seem to be, or are they one of the other kind?
Yeah, I mean,
that is always there.
Yep. You're always wary of it. I understand that. I mean, you have to move on. We've moved on. I mean, I can hear people saying, "Oh, you should get some therapy or whatever." I mean, we've moved on. We're just, highlighting it, if you will, for lack of a better word, to try to caution people that, you are allowed to ask all these questions. If you don't feel that the situation is right, leave. You're not roped into it. I don't care what piece of paper that you've signed. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but I know in my own instances, it did happen to me in another place after this severe instance, and I said, I can't stay. I have to leave. I had a bad feeling about it, and I was glad that I did it, and I got the procedure somewhere else. And we didn't go into doing this. It's not like we walk into these places, as troublemakers or whatever. It's just, I literally was hit by a brick wall when I saw all this stuff happening to me with surgery techs that have no training or barely any training, and wow. It was eye-opening. It was eye-opening, and I had to realize then, and it wasn't me that actually did realize, it was people telling me that, lawyers and whatever, it's business. It's just big business. It's business as usual. It's not, Cindy, it's not the way it used to be.
Well, and my husband remembers just feeling like a captive, that he was being tortured because he physically couldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what was going on, but there was nothing he could do about it. And he felt like a victim right then. And it was so bad at one point, he wanted to die just to be out of it, because, being stripped naked and being abused from that, he just wanted to die at that point.
Yeah. And I get it that certain things have to happen for certain procedures, but I mean, people should have a little bit more education. You should be able to be prepared for some of this stuff. If you know this is what's going on during the procedure, I mean, I think the people, I'm sure that it'll be argued it's a catch-22. If we tell you this, you won't have this operation. Okay, well, if we know about it, then we can go somewhere else where they're not going to do that, because we've found so many other places that do not subscribe to this type of care. I mean, there just are those places out there. Right. Anyway, so at the end of the day, we're at the end of another 10 minutes. I'm going to say thank you for listening. And, you are your own best advocate. You're listening to Planet Vero Radio.